Howdy, welcome back. Welcome to the longest video on our YouTube channel. I just actually finished editing this whole video that you're about to see. It is 40 some minutes long. It is a long one. I was tempted to try to break this one up again into two others, but figured I would just get everything out there. That was a lot of editing that went on in this video, but doors are done. So by the end of the video, you will be able to see doors being, I use the term done very loosely. They're mostly fitted to the side here. I may have some work to do on the gap still. I do not have windows, of course. Don't have seals just yet. This stuff is temporarily in place, but the doors are good. So that's that door there. I'll show you real quick the other door, and then we'll jump into the video. At the end of the video, I also did not give a summary or anything, but you can come back to the beginning of the video and watch this here if you want to see what the final product looks like. And again, I still will have final fitment work to do on these. But there you are. So enjoy the video, and yeah, thanks for watching. Alrighty, I did go ahead and last night ordered new hardware, but the hardware that it calls out is this 16 length screws. 16 length is very, very long. I'll show you real quick, but I ended up ordering 14 length, which I think is going to be a whole lot better, or else I'm going to end up with a ugly as heck stack of washers underneath here. So going back up here where I have not yet drilled all the holes, just on just the initial inner hole, that is a 16 length screw, and you'll see there it is way too long. I have that hole drilled, I have this inner hole there drilled, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue with the plans of drawing a reference line, keep them nice and square, and then continue getting them match drilled together. I don't have enough hardware, I don't have enough of those 14s, I don't think, to do this, so I will just end up having a stack of ugly washers underneath for now, and it'll just be temporary. So let's get to it. Don't do what I did. I did not hold the top down while I was doing that. So what was happening was the drill bit was pushing the cabin top upward and kind of pushing away. So you'll see now that hole does not line up right with the hinge underneath. I'll have to take this off, fill it, and redo it again. So if you're doing this, the magnet, yes, that works. Little spacers in here to keep the hinge centered. That's just, I saw a post recently of someone asking how to keep that centered. I chose to keep it centered with a couple of pieces of aluminum. So yeah, I need to keep, next time I do this, I need to keep positive pressure downward while drilling from the bottom. The other thing you'll see is I have the screw backwards here. The reason I did that is there's kind of a little bit of a lip on the inside here that was keeping the hinge from sitting perfectly square in here, which is no worries. I just flip the bolt around to the other side, knowing that when I do the final assembly here, I'll probably carve out just a little bit of room over here for the head of that bolt to have it in the proper orientation, because if you look down the side of it, not sure if it'll pick up on camera or not, but it is sitting slightly proud on top there. So anywho, quite a few lessons learned here. The magnets, yes, they work. Shims to keep it centered, yes, but keep downward pressure while drilling from the inside, or else you end up with a crooked hole like me. And might as well give this a shot. I was going to take this off right now, fill it, and let it cure, but I'm already going to be messing with it, so I might as well give this a shot. If this doesn't work, then I'll know for next time. That way I'm not letting this cure, trying this, and having the same thing happen again. Sorry, Amanda. Hopefully she never sees that. Now you can get a better idea of what happened here. So first one there, the whole thing shifted. It kind of lifted up as I was drilling. The second one with the weight on it, which now no longer weighs 25 pounds. Now it's 25 pounds minus that much. But anyways, it is new hole is there, so you'll see the definite offset there. So you definitely want to weigh it down or hold it down by hand when drilling this. Again, I'll just end up filling that, letting it cure, and then re-drilling this hole here. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock out the rest of these and check back in with you in the future.
Late night session for Bob the Builder.
Doors are going on, or at least temporarily going on.
There's some multitasking happening over here. Let's see if I can zoom in.
I'm being a horrible YouTube content creator.
Yeah.
I'm not recording this, but Permagrit countersink heads are awesome. It's the exact, I bought the full set that comes with every size of screw. But it's a really, really nice countersinker that works perfectly with each size screw.
What's it called? Permagrit?
Permagrits. I think they're somewhere across the pond. So next step, safety latch. I am not going to be doing section 45A, which is for that cabin door safety latch that the plans call for, and that's included with the kit. I am actually kind of copying, it's kind of funny, the factory RV-10, of course looks like this. I'll insert a picture here, and you'll get an idea. You'll actually see in that picture that there's actually a third latch that is not from Vans, that is from PlaneAround, and that's what I'll be going with as well. So I bought the 180-degree third latch deal, and then also the next day, I had second thoughts. I was like, you know what, I'll buy the angled door pins, which I'll get to these later. But it should look really, really nice. But shout out to PlaneAround. They have fantastic customer service. I placed those orders one day apart, and it was one of those things where you place the order and the next day you're like, dang it, I could have bought that one other thing and saved $10, $15 in shipping. But they actually caught that, and they sent me a message saying, hey, we saw you place another order. We're gonna refund you that shipping amount, ship it out in one box. Thank you, PlaneAround LLC. I'm going to be jumping into the door. My goal here is to kind of follow what Vans did with their door. So another thing that we will most likely be doing is keeping the door seals stock, which is very contrary to what other builders are doing. Most people are ignoring the factory seals from Vans. The factory seals sit on the inside. I'll include a picture here. Ignore the two people in it again. Ignore those two people sitting in the plane. But take a look at the seals around the outside. Those are factory seals. What most people are doing, or everyone that I see in builder logs are doing, is getting rid of this outer flange here and then doing the McMaster seal. And it looks fantastic. It looks great. When I was at the booth at Oshkosh and I was talking with Ryan Johnson, I asked him for his opinion. I'm like, hey, what's going on with the door seals? Were they really that bad that nobody puts them on? And he kind of mentioned that it was one of those things that caught on and just took off, and it became kind of the standard for a lot of builders to do, but mentioned that there's no issues with the factory demonstrator plane with their seal. Another thing he mentioned, the reason why he doesn't like it, the reason why I think they don't endorse the McMaster seal, is he said that this gutter system here, it is a piece of the overall structure of that the top canopy. My own uneducated builder perspective, and likely a lot of other people's, is if most people are installing the McMaster seal and they are fine, then we don't have these canopies collapsing on people, it's probably fine to do. Again, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but I think that's the general consensus out there, is that it's fine to modify this. But given all this, and looking at that picture, looking at the one at Vans, I didn't think it looked bad. I know a lot of people mentioned in their videos or in their builder logs that the one from Vans is ugly. I don't think it looks bad. No one else out there is doing the stock seal. If it's good enough for the factory demonstrator plane, which gets open and closed all the time and gets lots of use, it's probably good enough for our plane to keep it stock. So we'll be one of the only ones out there using it. So yeah, it should be fun. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into doing the door latch install. I'm not honestly going to get a lot of close-up stuff in the very beginning here, or else I'll just be burning footage. Because I'll be staring at instructions, staring at little pins and whatnot, but I will do recaps with little lessons learned along the way, or at the very end, I'll provide you a recap of what I found and what I did. Alrighty, so I've got the, turning off all these fans. So I've got this cut out, match drilled in there. One thing to keep in mind, I I don't know if the plans are made so that way you're able to glass this in after the fact or not, but if you follow their plans and drill your hole that you enlarge to a 1/2 inch, where they have you do that, it ends up being pretty deep in there. Now, I think that's gonna be fine. I may end up actually glassing in the bottom. I'm not sure yet. I saw in his instructions, he mentions that his is going on 11 years and still doing fine without needing replacing. So I may end up just glassing it in, but I have seen in other build logs or videos, one of the two, where people have it nice and flush there. If I was to do that, I had already actually drilled this hole where it called out. So you'll see I would end up with that gap. So instead, I just left it, I match drilled it where I had already enlarged that to a 1/2 inch up top there. So I'm gonna end up with a little bit of a gap there. Again, I may end up glassing this in, or maybe just shim it with a piece of aluminum that matches, and then do my seal on top of that. You'll never see it. Anywho, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on, start the next one, and then probably get the little support brackets epoxied in there. The blocks, whatever we call them, the reinforcing blocks that they have you epoxy in there, are in and cured. So now I'll have to go back through. I will have to do a little more sanding now just to get any clumps that there's really no way to work super cleanly inside of here. But one thing I wanted to mention that helped me work cleanly, took a tongue depressor and super glued it to the end of a piece of a stick. But what that did is allowed me, when I had this epoxy in there, I was able to be pretty dang messy, making sure that I had a good fillet on the top and bottom, but also ended up with quite a bit of epoxy on the back side. So I took this tool here, scooped it through, and I was able to really kind of smear it around. I can't see in there, but I'm assuming I ended up getting a nice amount pressed up against the back side of each of those blocks. So it also, I think, kept this area clear of epoxy where we are gonna have that gear. I don't have it in front of me, but there is gonna be a gear inside of here. So it kept that area clear. If I did not use this, my messy job that I was doing, if it cured, would have probably left a pretty chunky layer back there behind these blocks. So that worked well. Alrighty, YouTube. I am working on the handles, and I'm having the same struggle that every other builder out there seems to have, because most people are doing the flush door handles with the PlaneAround third latch and the stock setup for the rest of the mechanism. So you're trying to incorporate 3 different sets of plans. There's no real easy way to do this, especially filming. Filming, I have found I've already burned through quite a bit of footage already, where I think I'm about to start doing something and then the camera's recording and I'm just staring at a part. So I'm going to do my best to provide all of the little gotchas that I can, but I apologize ahead of time. It's not going to be the most seamless thing in the world. So I've gotten ahead of myself a little bit by prepping these, but it just looked too fun to do. So I've straightened these, I've prepped them, got them ready. But now jumping back into the earlier instructions, one of the first things that I know I'm going to have to make to modify the van's handle is I'm going to have to shorten the actual handle, this post steel, and this is the stock handle from Vans for the interior side, and I'm gonna have to go down to that green line there. The reason why that line alone took me a long time to do is look at that hole there. I do not want to bust that little bit of a edge that I have on the side of that hole, so I'm just really double checking, making sure, am I sure these measurements are right? Yes, I'm sure I'll continue from here, but just kind of goes to show I'm really trying to be careful. I was talking with someone earlier about the handles, kind of going through, kind of bouncing ideas off each other, making sure that we're on track, and this particular builder already cut down their racks, which you do not do. So I won't give you a hard time on video here, I won't publicly shame you, because that is a bummer, but lots of little hidden little gotchas. So if you're getting the kit, don't follow the instructions. If you're going to be installing the PlaneAround third latch, do not cut these down. Leave these in their length until you get to the instructions that come from the PlaneAround latch, not the Vans instructions. So with that said, I've got these two marked out. I am removing 0.820 inches from these two parts here. You'll see those green lines. So the next ones have to trim down, have to go 0.861 inches down on these guys here. Alrighty, up to step number 8 on the Aerosport install, which is directing us back to 4510 on the Vans install. So you'll see here I have this ready for match drilling. I do have this black block on the backside. I don't think it ends up getting used, but I'm following the instructions, so I will go ahead and get all this match drilled per the Vans instructions, and we'll continue from there. Holy gotchas. There have been a lot of gotchas. The instructions are really, really bad. I have tried recording. I've burned a lot of footage. This had to be taken apart twice today. I guess I'll cover real quick the stuff that's not related to the Aerosport plan. One thing is this here is where a pin is going to be riding in and out or up and down. So this is a handle, it goes on the interior side of the RV-10, factory from Vans. It is used even if you're doing the flush door handle. This little slot here is a slot for a roll pin to sit inside of, and that roll pin uses this area with a spring. I'll just show it to you. It uses that little area with a spring, and it allows the roll pin to move up and down and unlock the handle. So what I found the first time is I put this part in location. I had everything ready to rock. I'm trying to do this one-handed. I had everything ready to rock. I jammed a roll pin inside of there, but what happened was the inner area here, which should slip on the outside of that roll pin, should not stick to there, stuck really hard to the roll pin, and this pin was going nowhere. So you do have to grind this out a bit. I used a tungsten bit on a Dremel, grind it out a bit to get clearance for this roll pin to slide up and down. Do not just jam it inside of there, because you will have a fixed part that does not move. The other gotcha on this part itself is this powder coat finish. You do have to remove quite a bit of powder coat finish in order to get the gear and the rest of the assembly to slide over. You can kind of see where that powder coat finish had to be ground off to allow it to spin, but prior to doing that, it was really binding. It actually wasn't sliding over. I could not get the gear side to slide over far enough in because that powder coat interference. So jumping over to the Aerosport side of the instructions. They mentioned in the plans building this assembly here, following Vans instructions, and then from there incorporating it into the Aerosport side of things. So this part here, they make no mention about this little channel in here. So I got this whole assembly put together, but what I found was I got it all put together, and then I started remembering there were a lot of YouTube videos I saw where one side had a bigger cutout than the other. So the reason why this smaller sized opening is an issue is with the Aerosport handle, you end up having a lock on this side here, and that lock has a little tab that hangs over the edge. With the stock size in there, you'll see this one has been updated since. I've modified this since, but I assembled this whole thing with the stock roll pin, the stop gap and everything, and then I realized that lock would have nowhere to grab. So Aerosport instructions do not call that out, so I had to fully disassemble this again, drive out roll pins, pain in the butt. But you have two different sizes pins. The smaller size that they give you, this one here, which you'll notice is larger than the stock opening, that is the one that you're going to modify this strike plate with. So take a file, take whatever, and extend this out. The lock is going to be on the forward side of the handle, so left and right will be mirror images of each other. But that is why you have the different size roll pins. The other size roll pin here fits across, hard to do one-handed, but the other size roll pin is going to fit across this part here. So hoping to make all this make sense. You end up having that smaller roll pin there with your modified strike plate that accepts the pin. And then on this side here, you end up having the longer roll pin, which you can't see anymore because I have this E-clip in here. But the longer roll pin is what drives through this, through the gear, and through the center portion there. So lots of different moving parts here. Gang's all here. Camera doesn't want to focus, but it is it's satisfying. Pretty cool. Okay, Aerosport low profile handle. Before doing this, I'm not going to cover everything in depth, but before doing it, watch the video by Good Plane Living. I forget his actual name, but incredible video that goes over full detail of his install and how to install the low profile handle from Aerosport. I'm gonna be doing things outside of the order of these plans here. For instance, where it calls for using a number 12 bit and drilling out these first, then putting bolts in. I'm going to be drilling out the smaller holes here, putting clecos in, getting this firmly secured with clecos, then drilling those holes. So little things like that, I will be going out of order. I'm not specifically following these plans because like I mentioned before, you have 3 sets of plans. At the end of the day, they all kind of turn into a big mush, and it really comes down to you just needed to figure out what the best method is for you to get your assembly put together. So with that said, I'm done talking. This video is probably getting really, really long. I'm not gonna talk too much other than really key points and enjoy this little time lapse of me putting together the system here. quick overview of what's going on. Please, if you are doing doors and putting this together, look through all the instructions. I may be getting something totally wrong here, but this is how I am interpreting the plans and choosing to do it with our plane build. So the first thing I wanted to get to is that rack that you saw me magically tap into 2 pieces and drill. So that was this rack here. Hopefully you can see on camera, there's a little bit of blue Sharpie mark there, and there's blue Sharpie mark there. That's where those used to be connected. I've done that just for your own viewing pleasure and to hopefully help you follow along. So imagine that rack used to be one long piece. So that is where that rack is going, those 2 5-inch racks that you make from the long 10-inch rack when you cut it into 2. The plans have you drill those holes there. It sounds like to put rivets in. I'm not going to be doing that. You do your own research. If you are putting this together, you'll see how sturdy this thing is and what the limits are and how it works. So I am ignoring those for now. Going on further from there, you'll see this piece here is provided by PlaneAround, and this is connecting that bottom rack that we cut with the rack that came from PlaneAround, and that 3rd latch is going in here. So as this rod moves forward and aft, it's going to be spinning that little axle that's on there, which is that 3rd latch. From there, it is connecting to this really, really long rod, which we'll be cutting down. The reason why it's so long is because the stock door latching mechanism did not incorporate this in the middle. It actually came all the way over here, which would make more sense as to why it is so long. So you'll have a lot of leftover aft rod at the end of this. But then going on forward, really nothing crazy here other than connecting the forward pin to that rack, to the 2nd rack that we made. And again, this rack is the one that we'll have to modify when it mentions making a bevel. Don't be a dummy like me. I didn't mock this up like this the first time, and I beveled both sides of it, which was pointless because it's really only going to interfere with this top skin here. The other skin on the other side is totally flat, so it's really only going to be bumping into this angle. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and grind that part down there, and then we'll start fabricating blocks for the end here. It has you install these stock blocks first. I think probably just to get the hole locations for where your screw holes are going to go, and then where your pinhole is going to go. And then we'll actually start carving up the PlaneAround blocks and continue on forward for there. So I chose to go up in size here. I think it calls for a 3/8 inch hole in order to get the pin in and out. What I found is if I went up to a 1/2 inch, so it allows me to get the pin in and out pretty easily without having to have safety wire on it. And I went to hardware store. These were, I think, 50 cents each. Yeah, 50 cents each. And they're just little plastic plugs, which I'll use after painting this. We're going with a dark color, so that'll work really well. But I'll be able to, after this is all said and done, just push that in and I'll be able to cover that up nicely. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and start getting everything lined up inside of the door here and assembled into the handle. So the bottom rack right now is living together with the machined rod. You're not gonna be able to see it on camera, but they're both inside of there loose. I'm not gonna lose them, they're easy to get to. You can use magnets to fish them out or pliers, whatever. But anyways, the reason I put them in there is you'll notice with the handle in place, you're not able to slide those in after the fact. So those have to just be kind of placed in there, dig them out after. But now, next step, I'm going to get this long guy all the way through here into this gearbox here in the middle and continue from there. Kind of fighting against me, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this bent to the profile. I'll get the front one. The front one barely needs any bend at all. Basically just trying to match it to the curve of the skin. So I'll knock it out real quick and we'll try this again. I think that's it. Nope. Hey, I got it. I got it. And that was out of view the whole time. Dang it. That was out of view the whole time, but I got it. Alrighty, I made a mistake. So this hole here I drilled wrong. I don't know how. I thought I copied the same measurements that I had on the other door and the instructions, but turns out that hole is obviously very, very low relative to the pin. So this needs to be able to drop in right about there. So I am going to have to widen this out, but there's your pin. I'm not worried about safety wire. I have these fancy little medical pliers, whatever we're calling them, and I'm able to get the pin out. And you'll see it has a little detent on it, so it kind of snaps into place where I don't need, where I shouldn't need safety wire. I will see you after I get that handle back on there. Alrighty, so I am happy with this. You probably saw there, but I first got the bottom rack in and then went ahead and disconnected it there, pulled this rod back out, tucked it away from this rack, left this rack in location where it was allowing me to not have it bottom out back here while getting the front one on. Then once I got the front one on and got that one to get to the proper rotation, pretty much just a hair past 180. I tried going one notch to the right, but that was kind of landing me right about there. But what's happening is this little ground down edge is contacting the fiberglass. I think that is to be expected here. That's why they have you bevel that down. But that ends up acting as the limit basically on the rearward movement of the handle. And then the other limit happens just past this flat portion, right there. You'll see if I lift this pin up and try to go further, what's happening is it's actually binding there where it contacts this block here. So all those limits in place, I'm happy with where this is at. So now I'm going to go back to the instructions here, read it 25 times, and then go ahead and make my cut. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the blocks put in location, mark it where it tells me to mark it, take it off, cut them, and then I'll be ready to tap them for the tips or whatever that go inside of them. So we'll get to it. I can adjust this as needed, but then I'm able to then use the threaded insert from PlaneAround and thread this over that guy there, and in turn have a nice way to poke the side of the fuselage structure. I don't know if you can get away with doing this with just the standard method from Vans. Comment down below if you can. I thought it would end up short since we cut our push rods down more than Vans has you cut them down. So anyways, this worked out really well on the other door. So now I have a way to poke it. So I can take my block, I can go ahead and insert this on the end here, and I'll be able to operate the handle and stab the side of the structure once this is cleat coated in location. I will go ahead and remove this, put it on the back side of the door, and do the back pin. So I'm doing them individually on their own. That way I can really focus on lining up one side at a time, making sure it's flush with the side of the fuselage, poke it, stab it, take it off, move it to the other side, do the same thing on the other side. I did that on the other door over there, and it came out beautifully. So anyways, I'm gonna shut up and get to it and see if we can knock this out. Little indent is right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch the pin around to the other side, reclico this on, stab the back side, and then I'll be ready for drilling. On the other side, I used standard drill bits, and I found that it really wanted to grab the fiberglass, wanted to grab the aluminum. As you get to those larger drill bits, they just want to shred the piece. So went on Amazon, bought this reamer, 7/16 inch reamer, which kind of starts smaller up front and goes all the way up to 7/16 in the back. I'm hoping that this will prevent some of that grabbing, that tear out, the whatever you want to call it, chunkiness. So I'm hoping this helps. I'll let you know. That was awesome. Hopefully you'll be able to have the same satisfaction that I am having through your cell phone or portable computer screen. Oh, that is so satisfying. I highly recommend this drill bit. I will include a link in the, I'll throw it in the video description for this particular drill bit. But pretty cheap, and man, that worked much better than trying to use standard drill bits. Alrighty, so I have the blocks sanded down. The backside matches the profile of that flange there. I'm happy with those. I did also have to sand down the front of them where the door was interacting with the block itself. It was kind of pushing the skin pushing the door proud of the outside here, which is of course leading to alignment issues on the pin. So now I have all that squared away. It is happy. Next step involves getting the bracket ready to install on here for the hydraulic arm deal. You'll see I have a couple of Sharpie marks on there. That is where I have to carve out extra room to get this those little eyes to go up and over. You'll see when this is nice and flush, or when this is nesting inside of there, those little ears, whatever we're going to call these, are running into the fiberglass there. So I'm going to show you real quick what I did on the other side to deal with that, which is I had to notch out the fiberglass, not only to make room for the ears, but also to make room to get the bolt in and out of there. So I think I'm going to call it here. I have so much footage. This card is about maxed out. I'm up to 3 SD cards so far. So I'm going to stop recording at this point. I think I've given you enough of the gotchas up until this point that I wish I knew prior to doing doors, but I'm basically going to finish out the other door just like this one is finished here. You'll see another remaining step that I have to do on the other door is this little third latch deal there, which on this one you'll see is engaging nicely and kind of sucking that door in. So again, a lot of footage. So yeah, I'm gonna call it quits here. Hopefully this video was helpful. Doors were very tricky. I think these doors, and they still will be tricky. I have a lot more work to do. I have to get them disassembled after I get them finalized. I have to get them prepped. I got to figure out my door seals. I have to take the whole canopy off to prep the inside of that for paint. So there's a lot of moving pieces just in a couple of sections in the plans here. And this has probably been the most trying part of the build process. It is a lot of work. So anyways, made it this far. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in that next video. Adios.